What's going on, guys? So the 2023 NFL season is about a week away, so I wanted to challenge myself to try and create a fantasy football lineup generator from scratch. My main two goals were to improve my game dev skills while making a lineup generator I could use for DraftKings. Now, before I get into the structure of the video, I'd like to give a little background on this channel, and it's for those of you who are new to this channel, I started it back in December 2018. Other than having played video games all my life, I had no knowledge of programming, 3D art, game engines, music, etc. However, I always wanted to create my ideal 3D RPG game. So I decided it would be fun to make this channel so I could track and share my progress as I attempt to make my dream game from having zero knowledge in any of these areas. I love looking back on my previous progress to see how far I've come. Honestly, a few years ago, this lineup generator would have taken me months to complete. However, surprisingly enough, I was able to create this from scratch in about 1 week. So enough about the channel's background. In this video, I'll be going over the following: how weekly DraftKings lineups work, for those of you who are not familiar with it, the purpose of this lineup generator, how the generator works, and my plan for using it this season. After that, I will go into the game dev perspective of what I've learned and how this will help me in making my own game. I'll start off with a little bit of background as to what features of which games I enjoyed and I want to include in my game. Planning phase of which I improved upon by making this generator. The ability to read and write data from Excel and CSV files, which was critical for this to have the player database. Also the custom editor, which would have saved me a ton of time if I knew this earlier. So starting off with number one, how weekly DraftKings lineups work. So there's many contests on DraftKings, go from free to $1 to up to like $1,000 per entry. Now, the one I will be talking about, there's so many kinds, but the one I'm talking about here is the lineup one, where you get 50,000 fake dollars to build the lineup, and each player will get you these things called fantasy points, and you want to build the lineup under that salary cap of 50,000 with the total number of fantasy points as high as possible. Now, these are just projections, obviously. I have my own projections I'll go over in a second, but just for simplicity's sake, let's say Lamar Jackson will get you 21.2 points and his salary is 8,000. Jalen Hurts would get you 26.9 fantasy points and the salary would be less. So obviously you'd go with this guy if this was like what he was going to get, because you want the cheapest guy with the most points. So let's say Jalen Hurts. And I was doing this a few years ago before I knew any of this programming stuff. I would do this manually, try to pick players to try to get under that salary cap. Obviously, you can't go with all expensive players because then you'll run out of money, which is why this is, in my opinion, really fun, trying to find the ideal lineup, but also a big challenge because you have like hundreds of players that you can go through. Some might get you 0 points, some might get you 30 points. And it all depends too on the matchup. And there's so many factors that go into it. It's nearly impossible to do these manually and win. I mean, anything's possible because anything can happen week to week. But the reason I did this was so I could generate like 1,000 lineups and pick the best ones from that. So right now, I just generated or just did a random lineup and I'm under the salary cap. I have $300 extra, and this is the total number of points I'd be getting from my guys. Looking at this, I would not do this because there's some guys that'll probably get you 0 points, including Taylor, who's out for a few weeks. But in any case, that's how it works. You create a lineup under the salary cap and you want the ideal team that you think is going to get you the most fantasy points for that week. So in my lineup generator, number 2 is the purpose of this generator is to be able to generate lineups based on random percentages, because you don't know what the ideal percentage is going to be. Maybe the best quarterback won't be that good this week, so maybe you want less of a budget on the quarterback and more on the running back. But with so many possibilities, it's nearly impossible to do. Now, you could do this manually, and I'll show this in a second. So like, let's say I want to do 6,000 here. And one of the cool things for this, if I go 4,000 or let's say 2,000, the cheapest player in this list is Jaden Reed at 3,000 salary, so it's not going to go below that. Now, if I'm going to go, let me say 5,000, let me go 10,000 on receiver. I can't go higher than that because the highest player is Justin Jefferson. So let's say I wanted to do Justin Jefferson and generate a lineup based on that. Let's add some more salary to the quarterback. And it gives you the percentage allocation. So this lineup here would give me 137. And every time I create a lineup, it's going to do exactly, it's going to go through and take the ideal or highest fantasy point player projection based on the budget. And any extra budget, it's going to carry it down and pick the next best one plus the available budget that you have. So I'm going to randomize it here and generate it. And out of this random one, it gave me Deshaun Watson and then 140 points total. I got George Pickens, Godwin, Amari Cooper, so a much better flex than Zay Flowers, according to the projections. And if I do this randomized one more time, and this is all manually, and these are just, let's say I got Justin Fields, Josh Jacobs, Mixon, and I could delete lineups as well. So the purpose of this is to be able to generate it. You could pick what you want, but the real benefit of this is where I click random lineups, and I have this set to generate 10 random lineups. It's going to randomize the percentages and then give you 10 lineups based on that. So you get 10 lineups here. This one is 142, so higher than the other ones. We get Deshaun Watson, and we get Jamar Chase, and we get Godwin, as well as Mixon, and Josh Jacobs as our flex. So, I mean, this allocated a lot more money to the flex, which is why you get a high tier running back over here. And that's powerful as it is, but the real benefit is that you could generate, let's say, 1,000 or 100 lineups, and I could set it so only bring me, lineups over 142 points. So maybe I'll get some at like 150 or high 140s, and then I'll pick those lineups. And once I have, and I'm just going to do this randomly for the sake of this video. Let's say I have these. Let's generate a little bit more. All right, let's save this one. So let's say I went through it and I want to do, these 4 lineups because they're over 140 points. I can export this now, click export, and I'll say export 4 lineups. So the cool part about this now is that it exports it to a CSV file, which I learned that you could actually upload here to DraftKings. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there's a way here in lineups. I'm just going to leave this here. You could upload lineups, and you could upload a CSV file. So this is one I did earlier, and it successfully loads all your lineups. And then you can go to lineups here, and all these lineups are here, and you could easily just click them and then join whatever contest that you want for the week. So that's the cool part about this. And that's the end part of it. But instead of taking the projections that DraftKings gives you, so if I go to, instead of taking these fantasy points per game, what I did in Google Sheets was create my own projection. So I pulled a list of all the players and their salaries. All this information gets pulled from DraftKings. And then I just do a lookup with my weekly player projections, which I made in the sheet, as well as strength of schedule weekly projections. Now, the cool part about this is that, let's say Mahomes is playing Detroit this week. I think he's going to get, based on all my projections, he's going to get 29 points. If he's playing Jacksonville, he might get 28.3. And if he's playing Chicago, 26. So all I need to do at this point, I'll be doing different tweaks to the projections as they go because things change. People get injured, defenses change. The cool thing is I could just change this, and then this upload changes accordingly. So for example, Cooper Kupp, week 1 is going to get 19. Then maybe he'll get 20 week 2, week 3, 19.1. And all I have to do at this point is just change the week and then just upload, file, download, CSV. And in my lineup generator, you could upload player list from CSV. And let me clear this out. Let's say it's a 0 list. And then I click upload player list from CSV, and it loads all the players into scriptable objects, including the name, a player ID, salary, position, and points. And that's what this generator pulls from in order to generate the optimal lineup. So I'm really excited to try this for the upcoming season. And if it goes well, I'll make another video just to let you guys know how it works. I'm not sure actually if many of you guys are interested in fantasy football as much as I am, because this is really mainly a game dev channel. But I've used my skills of programming and what I've learned before. Like I made a character creator, and I was able to randomize the percentages based on that from learning how to do a character creator within the past year. So that's basically my plan for actually using this, generating the lineup, then exporting it, and then randomizing the ideal positions to get the most ones. And I'll probably tweak this as I go and see if it actually works. So that's the ultimate lineup generator for now. And now from the game dev perspective. So in my mind, and if I go to my oldest videos, this is after 6 months of doing this. And then my latest ones, this is after, 5 years of actually working on the game, learning animation, learning everything, 3D modeling, texturing. But I picture my dream game as like a medieval fantasy sandbox RPG containing favorite elements of games, such as like the itemization from Diablo and the RNG of the items, skill progression similar to Skyrim, where you're actually, using a weapon or using a spell, and it's going to give you more power or advance that skill the more you use it, or the more XP you gain from it. The aesthetic I kind of want to go for, and it's not up to what I envision right now, but it is much better than where I was at. But it's kind of like a more cartoony version of Fable and Harvest Moon. That's kind of what I picture, almost like a Toy Story type look. Again, that's a far cry from where I am now, but I'm happy with my progress so far. And then in addition, I'm gonna have some like wacky NPCs, mainly based on like people I've known in my life and stories that have occurred, and kind of incorporate that into my game. So like close friends and family will know this, but like other people who play it won't, but they'll still enjoy it because it's pretty crazy. But the player in this game is not really the main character, but they will be able to change the events or stories based on the decisions they make within the game, based on the quests they do and based on, how they interact with the different NPCs. So right now I'm at a point where I have a game that's playable. You could create the character, you can go in, save your progress. I took this from Skyrim, where you could have like an autosave feature as well, saves the weather and everything like that. And then added some music and stuff like that. So you could actually create the game, go into the game, run around in the game, and collect stuff and things like that. But there's no quests yet. There's no like NPCs that you could discuss with, and there's no really intro into the game. It kind of just throws you into the middle of the village here, and then that's it. So the next phase for me is going to be try to figure out how to introduce the player into the game and give some kind of direction or quest to do. So that's the ultimate dream for the game. Now, for how the lineup generator has helped me. First off, before this, I would kind of just rush right into things. But what I've done with my programs from now on and what I've been doing, and I really can't stress enough how important the planning phase is to this. But I start off by listing everything that I would need to do. And I often use notes, such as in a Word document or something simple, just to lay out everything that I need to accomplish. So for example, Input Manager will handle input from the following: max budget input fields, position slot budget. I have a rough idea of everything that I need to do. And then I go through and one by one, get player list from CSV, get position slots, like the list of players, set the max budget. So everything should follow in order. Set the available budget, set the minimum and maximum, and then once all the data and everything in, then you're able to randomize. Understanding the structure and just laying it out one by one and taking time to do that will save you a ton of time and save me a ton of time going forward on any of my future projects. I think this is going to be one of the most important things that I've learned. This actually CSV writer and editor. So being able to, and I showed it before, read all this data from a simple CSV file. So being able to create this Google Sheets file, download it as a CSV, and then open it in just like a Word document, but allow this program to read it and write it as shown. So it goes through the table and creates each player as a scriptable object and loads it into the actual database. Now, I had no idea how to do this before, but I learned step by step from different YouTube videos using System.io to input and output for writing text and reading text. But the real important part for me from like the game dev perspective is I could easily use this for any kind of like NPCs or items specifically, like the value of items. So let's say like you have a red apple, what the value of that is, where it could be found, like all this data that I really wasn't sure. I was doing this all like manually, creating these scriptable objects, when now I could just populate them from a Excel sheet or a Google Sheets file. And as I shown, there's like Kenny Pickett, and then over here, ID number 15. So each like item would have an ID, an item name, item value, and then any kind of like item stats or percentage chance to drop, like all this kind of stuff. And I could easily just tweak it if needed, rather than going into each individual scriptable object, and just tweak it in the file and then load it into the actual program. Now, this leads me into the other great thing that I learned, which I wish I knew this 4 or 5 years ago, but creating a custom editor within the script. So for example, I was starting the program every time just to load in. So the player manager has this thing called get player list from CSV. And I was using a start method to actually call this. So I'd have to start the program and it would load it every time. But I've learned that you could have a custom editor. So you could literally go through here and you could upload the list. So as I showed before, let's say the players list is 0 and there's nothing here. I could, without starting the program, I could just click upload player list and it's going to call it and do everything without needing to open the program, which is huge for me. So I could test things without spending minutes each time loading the program, trying it, and then stopping the program. You could also do anything from call any method: sort player salary descending, sort player by tight end. So this is sort like the highest tight ends, Mark Andrews, 6,200. It's amazing the possibilities that I could do this now with my game and be able to create items more quickly and being able to test things with this custom editor and make any kind of custom editor you want. These are just like some of the main things I've learned, including the planning phase. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will probably make another video on this just to let you guys know how it's going if you're interested in the fantasy football lineup results. But that's it for now. Hopefully you enjoyed this. This is not kind of like my normal progress update video, but it has helped me improve my game dev skills, and I'm excited to try it out in about a week. So that's it for now, and thanks for watching.